Hey guys, tonight we're going to slow things down and sit with a story that matters. Marcus Langston isn't here to make noise. He isn't here to take up space. He's just a father dressed in honor showing up for his son. A quiet man with polished boots and an old photo folded deep into his uniform pocket. Marcus has seen war loss and silence so thick it could suffocate a soul. And today he just wants to sit in a plastic chair and watch his boy become a graduate. Before we begin, please like the video and subscribe, but only if stories like this truly move you. Comment your city and the time you were watching. Now close your eyes or don't, it's your choice. Either way, you're about to witness something real. The sun's already high over Crest Hill, Texas when Marcus pulls into the back parking lot behind the gym. The air hums with June heat. You can smell the cut grass baking in it, see the shimmer rising off blacktop, hear the whistles of last-minute arrivals rushing in with gift bags and cameras. The gym's back wall, worn red brick painted over a dozen times, isn't much to look at. But for Marcus, it holds the weight of a promise. He eases the door shut on his Dodge Charger, the same one his late wife used to drive on weekend errands and soccer drop-offs. His hand lingers on the roof for a second. Then he straightens his coat tugs once on each cuff and breathes out. His marine dress blues are crisp, his shoulders still squared, his face unreadable, but his eyes carry something deeper. He reaches into the glove compartment, fingers past a tattered road map and an old gas receipt and pulls out a photograph. It's creased and fading. His wife smiling through exhaustion, holding a tiny Jalen swaddled in blue. He tucks it carefully into his jacket. "I told you I'd be here," he says softly, to no one and everyone all at once. Inside the gym is pulsing with energy. Rows of chairs stretch across the waxed floor, bleachers bulge with proud families. Balloons bounce overhead, and the scent of concession popcorn mixes oddly with floor cleaner and perfume. Marcus steps inside slowly, his boots tapping gently against the concrete as he walks toward the check-in. A young volunteer with a clipboard glances up. "Ticket Marcus," presents it without a word. "Third row, front left, family seating." "Welcome, sir," the kid says, barely glancing twice at the uniform. Marcus nods once. "Appreciate it." He walks down the aisle with the posture of a man who's never needed to rush, eyes shift in his direction. Some glancing, others lingering a moment too long. But he's used to that. He takes his seat in the third row, adjusts the angle of the folding chair without fuss, and folds his hands. The photo presses lightly against his chest. It steadies him. Around him chatter swirls. A woman nearby fans herself with a printed program. Someone 2 rows back whispers, "I think he's military." A boy with braces accidentally drops his soda under a seat. But Marcus doesn't move. He watches the stage. Watches the line of graduates forming at the far end of the gym. There, in the middle, Jalen Langston, 18, lanky, his mother's eyes. Marcus remembers the day he was born. He'd flown in from overseas with 72 hours of leave and dirt still under his fingernails. Held his newborn for 10 minutes before getting called back out. That was a different world, and now this one. The principal's voice cuts over the loudspeaker. The band strikes the first note of pomp and circumstance. Everyone rises. Marcus stands too, a slow practice motion. His salute is internal, etched in how he carries himself, not in gestures. Then the anthem begins. Hands rise to hearts. Marcus stays still. For him, the anthem isn't just a song. It's every night watch, every folded flag, every moment he's survived that someone else didn't. But not everything stays buried forever. The final notes of the anthem fade into the rafters, swallowed by the heat and humidity of the crowded gym. People settle into their seats, chatter, restarting the mood festive again. Marcus lowers himself calmly back into his chair, his movements deliberate and quiet. He adjusts his jacket. The photograph in his inside pocket shifts slightly over his chest, pressing against him, like a memory that refuses to fade. He's not here for applause. He's not here for recognition. He's here for one thing: to watch his son walk that stage. But sometimes even the smallest piece is interrupted. 2 men in black polos and cargo pants make their way down the aisle. Security, Harlan Private Services, judging by the embroidered badges on their sleeves. Neither of them looks old enough to know what it means to wait in silence for the sound of a rifle crack in the distance. One is bulky with a tight jaw and a clipboard tucked under his arm. The other, lean and chewing gum, glances from row to row as if bored. Marcus notices them. He always notices. They stop beside him. The bulkier one leans down, voice low but firm. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to come with us. Marcus looks at him. Just looks. Why, his voice is calm, steady. This section's for family members of graduates. There was a mix-up. You're not supposed to be here. Marcus doesn't blink. Ticket says otherwise. He reaches into his jacket and pulls out the folded slip. The volunteer's name is still scribbled in the corner. Third row family. Left side. The lankier guard doesn't even glance at it. Yeah, well, it's full now. We're just trying to clear a little space. I was here before. It filled, Marcus replies. Still no edge in his voice. Just fact. The larger guard shifts, clearly unused to being questioned, without bluster or anger. Look, sir, we've got extra seats in the back. No need to make this a thing. Marcus turns back to the stage, not going anywhere. A ripple moves through the row, subtle but present. People nearby glance over. A woman in the second row leans toward her husband. A student on the far side of the gym and tilts their phone slightly, recording. Maybe not. The lanky guard tries again, this time with a practiced smile. You'll be more comfortable in the back. Trust me, boy. And there it is. Marcus exhales through his nose. Not a laugh, not a sigh, just a breath. You think comfort is my concern? Neither man responds. The taller one tightens his lips, jaw working the gum harder. From 2 rows back, an elderly woman with silver hair and a soft cardigan leans forward. Her voice is barely audible. Don't you let them move you. Marcus nods once, a small, respectful gesture. He doesn't look back. The bulkier guard badge reads, Dean steps closer. The other one, Miller, folds his arms like this is a standoff. But Marcus isn't standing. He isn't reacting. He's simply present. Miller mutters, if there's a problem, take it up with the school office. You made it a problem. Marcus replies quietly, I just came to sit. Dean adjusts the radio clipped to his belt, says something into it that Marcus can't hear. His eyes stay locked on Marcus's face. It's not a threat, not yet, but it's posturing, a test. Marcus's expression doesn't change. Miller, clearly losing patience, lowers his voice again. We're giving you a chance to avoid a scene. You're the only ones making one, Marcus says. The moment stretches. Something in the air tightens. It's not just heat anymore, it's weight. The kind of weight that makes people lean forward without knowing why. The kind that signals something's about to shift. Miller leans even closer. This isn't your base. This is a high school. Stop acting like you run it. The words hang there, too loud, too sharp. A pin drops somewhere in the distance. Marcus doesn't move. He lets the silence settle around them like dust after a desert storm. And you don't know who you're speaking to. Dean's hand hovers near his belt, not a weapon, but close enough to send a message. Control, authority. It's all they think they have. But not everything stays buried forever. Because then quietly, deliberately, a man stands. 3 rows back, no uniform, no sound, just presence. He crosses his arms and stares. Then across the gym, another man rises, then another. They aren't together, not obviously, but Marcus knows. He knows their faces, their postures, their stillness. Vaughn Delaney, Ross Cantu, Elijah Hawk McCrae, brothers in arms, SEALs, ghosts to anyone who hasn't lived what they've lived. The guards don't see it yet, but Marcus does. He doesn't smile, doesn't flinch. He simply blinks once, slow and steady, and lets the past start walking toward the present. The gym seems to forget itself. For a moment, the graduation music, the stage lighting, the rustling of programs, all of it becomes background static. There's no need for raised voices, no sudden drama. Just a quiet turning of heads as one man after another rises, each from a different part of the gym, each moving with that same deliberate calm. Marcus doesn't look back. He doesn't need to. He knows who they are by how the air shifts when they stand. These aren't men looking to prove anything. These are men who already have long ago in places no ceremony could ever reflect. Vaughn Delaney steps into the center aisle. He wears a black sport coat over a gray shirt, his beard streaked with salt and iron. He moves slowly with intention, every step measured. He doesn't raise his voice when he speaks. Is there a reason this man is being harassed? Miller turns startled. Sir, this is private security business. Vaughn doesn't flinch. No, it's not. Not anymore. Dean stiffens. We've got orders from the school. You don't order dignity, Vaughn cuts in. And you don't move a man like Marcus Langston unless he asks you to. Has he asked you to? Dean says nothing. The radio on his belt crackles, then falls silent again. Another man stands in the bleachers. Elijah McCrae, broad-shouldered, dark-eyed, silent. On the other side of the gym, Ross Cantu crosses his arms, gaze fixed forward. Then comes Sean Alvarez. Then Reggie Boone. 6 in total now. No words between them, no coordination, just presence. Miller scans the gym. He sees the stairs now, students watching, parents leaning forward, phones quietly tilted. The room is listening even if no one speaks. Marcus hasn't moved. Not once. He's still seated, hands resting on his lap, the photo pressing gently against his chest like a heartbeat. His silence isn't retreat, it's command. Dean adjusts his stance. This is getting out of hand. Vaughn steps forward again. It got out of hand when you assumed this man didn't belong. Dean snaps, I don't know who you think you are. Vaughn's voice hardens just slightly. I'm the man he pulled out of a burning Humvee in Kandahar. The man whose life he saved with 2 busted ribs and a rifle in his teeth. I'm the man who owes him my next breath. That hits like thunder. Dean opens his mouth, but nothing comes out. He looks at Marcus, still seated, still silent. Then he looks around. Every one of the men standing now is watching him, not with anger, but with clarity. Not with threats, but with the weight of knowing exactly what they're capable of. Marcus finally speaks. You were saying something about comfort. His voice always is low, steady. Miller shifts his weight again. We're just doing our job. No, Marcus says. You're doing what someone told you without asking if it was right. Dean's hand hovers near his belt. Again, that same power gesture, like he's trying to remind everyone who's in control. And that's when Vaughn drops his voice even lower. Touch him and you'll find out what control really means. It isn't a threat, it's a truth. A school board member near the front row leans into the principal, whispering fast. The assistant principal rises, pulling a walkie from her hip. The school staff begins to understand that this isn't just a moment, it's a reckoning. Meanwhile, Marcus doesn't shift. His stillness isn't passive, it's declarative. It says everything without a single syllable. You tried to erase me, and I didn't even need to stand. Jalen Langston, waiting in the graduate line near the edge of the gym, sees everything. His eyes lock on the 2 guards, then on his father, then on the men who are now standing like quiet shadows cast by a brighter truth. The name of another student is called. Applause, polite but hollow. The audience's attention has fractured. They're not watching the stage anymore. Garcia, Lewis, another name. Each one walks across, smiles for a photo, and exits the spotlight, but the real moment is still seated in the 3rd row left side. Dean lowers his radio. The principal approaches, whispering urgently. Whatever is said isn't heard, but the effect is instant. Dean nods stiffly, says something under his breath to Miller. They begin to back away, but as they turn, Miller mumbles just loud enough to linger. You think wearing that uniform makes you better than everyone else, and Marcus turns his head. Not fast, not sharp, just with that same control. No, but it reminds me what real respect looks like. Miller swallows hard. Vaughn doesn't move, but his eyes narrow. Dean places a hand on Miller's shoulder, guiding him back. He knows. He finally knows this isn't a battle he wants. One by one, the 6 men who stood begin to sit again. Not because the tension has faded, but because the line has been drawn. Quietly, unmistakably. The gym exhales, and from the graduation line, Jalen's jaw clenches, not in fear, but in awe. The quietest man in the room just silenced a storm without raising his voice. But not everything stays buried forever. The ceremony keeps going, at least on the surface. Names continue echoing from the loudspeaker, and the rhythm of polite applause resumes. But something has changed in the air, like the room itself is trying to recover from a shift it can't quite name. The stage, the banners, the celebratory balloons, they all feel a little dimmer now, overshadowed by something unspoken, something powerful. In the 3rd row, Marcus Langston remains still, eyes fixed on the stage. He doesn't look back at the guards who have now receded toward the rear exit, quietly escorted by the principal, after a hushed, firm exchange. He doesn't glance around for validation. He simply watches, listens, waits. Jalen is 10 students away from the front now. The line of graduates snakes closer to the podium. Some kids are still fidgeting, tugging at their gowns, or whispering to their neighbors, but the tension has imprinted itself on them, even if they don't fully understand why. Jalen, though, he understands. He had watched it all unfold. Watched his father sit like a mountain unmoved by wind. Watched the guards lean too close, speak too low, assume too much. And then he watched 6 men, strangers to everyone else, but not to his father, rise like a quiet wall of resolve. Not with outrage, not with noise, with presence. There's a power in being seen, but there's something deeper in being stood for. Across the gym, Vaughn Delaney hasn't taken his eyes off Marcus. Seated once more, he now looks less like a threat and more like a guardian. The same could be said for Ross, Elijah, Reggie, Sean, and the others. They don't speak. They don't move. They just exist, anchors in a sea of misunderstanding. Jalen takes a deep breath. The girl ahead of him turns and grins nervously. "You ready?" Jalen smiles. "More than you know. 2 names, 1 step, another name, another step." Then comes the pause. The announcer clears her throat. Her voice softens slightly, and then she says it, "Jalen Langston." The name hits the air like a drumbeat. There's a moment of silence, not awkward, but intentional. The kind of pause a room takes when it's already been shaken awake. And then applause. Loud, focused, different. It's not just parents clapping. It's something else. The 6 men who had stood for Marcus now rise again one by one. They don't salute. They don't shout. They simply stand and begin to clap. Slow, strong, unified. Their rhythm isn't showy, but it resonates. Each clap echoes like a drum line built on loyalty. A message layered between beats. We see you. We see him. We honor both. Jalen walks across the stage with his shoulders back and chin high. His gown sways slightly with each step, the red and black honor cords catching the light. He accepts his diploma with a firm handshake, nods to the principal, then turns to the crowd. His eyes search and find Marcus. Marcus doesn't wave, doesn't stand. He just offers a small smile. The kind that doesn't try to say too much because it doesn't have to. Jalen sees it, understands it. That was the moment. The applause continues as Jalen steps off the stage and into the next chapter of his life. In the bleachers, parents who hadn't clapped for anyone else are now standing. Some wipe their eyes, unsure exactly why they're crying. Some hold their kids tighter. The gym, for all its noise, feels reverent now. Jalen returns to his seat with the graduating class. He doesn't sit immediately. He looks back at his father one more time across the gym, across the distance. Marcus gives the smallest nod, quiet approval deeply felt. Time moves forward, but the air still holds the weight of what just happened. Even the principal, still calling names, has shifted her tone softer, more grounded. Like even she knows they're all walking in the echo of something bigger than caps and gowns. The ceremony eventually winds down. The final student is called. The caps are thrown. The crowd cheers, but there's a layer beneath the noise now. A hush beneath the joy. A sense that the room has been changed by more than just a graduation. And in the center of that shift is Marcus Langston, the man who never raised his voice, the man who never stood, and yet somehow stood taller than anyone else in the room. But not everything stays buried forever. The gym empties in waves. Chairs screech back as parents and families file out, clutching balloons, flowers, and camera phones. Students tumble into hugs and laughter, tossing their caps again in small clumps. Teachers give high fives. Grandmothers cry into tissue packets. The front entrance hums with motion. But Marcus Langston remains seated. He's not in a hurry. His knees are stiff and the adrenaline has only just started to leave his bloodstream. For the first time all afternoon, he shifts his weight and stretches his back, pressing one palm into his thigh with a low exhale. He watches the graduates disappear down the side hallway, Jalen among them. A blur of black gowns and tassels. He catches one last glimpse of his son standing near the gym doors, surrounded by friends, and then Jalen turns around and looks back. A brief glance, one heartbeat long, but it holds everything. Did you see me? Marcus's expression gives the answer every second. Outside, the sun has dropped lower in the sky. It paints the pavement with long, gold-tinted shadows. Heat still radiates from the asphalt, but the breeze has softened. Vaughn Delaney is already by the door speaking quietly with Reggie Boone. Elijah stands off to the side, scanning the lot with a steady eye. They aren't crowding Marcus. They know better. They're just close enough. Just visible. Marcus steps into the sun slowly. His boots land with purpose. The Charger is still parked under the same oak tree, and the paint along the hood catches the last rays of evening like it's been waiting too. Across the lot, Jalen is talking to a classmate, but breaks away when he sees his father. The boy doesn't smile right away. His mouth sets in a tight line as he walks across the lot, diploma, still in one hand, gown half unzipped. "You okay?" he asks as soon as he's close. Marcus nods. "You." Jalen looks down, jaw tight. "They tried to move you, I know." Jalen's voice shakes just barely. "I was ready to walk off that stage. I mean it. I was 2 seconds from saying something." Marcus places a firm hand on his son's shoulder. "And that's why you didn't." Jalen looks up. "What?" "Because you trusted I could handle it, and because you handled your moment like a man. You didn't let anger steal it from you. You walked with pride." Jalen breathes in slowly. His gaze flickers to the edge of the lot where the 6 veterans now stand in a quiet semicircle like sentinels. Who were those guys that stood up? Marcus glances toward them. Men I bled with, men who know what loyalty means, men who don't forget. Jalen nods. That was powerful." "It was necessary," Marcus replies. "Sometimes silence is louder than shouting, and sometimes standing up without speaking says more than 1,000 words." They stand together for a moment, shoulder to shoulder. Not just father and son, 2 men connected by something deeper than blood. The memory of what just happened isn't fading. If anything, it's settling into the marrow. Near the doors, Vaughn raises a hand, not a wave, just a small gesture of respect. Jalen lifts his chin and returns it, no hesitation this time. As the lot thins out and families head to their cars, Marcus and Jalen walk together to the Charger. Jalen pauses at the passenger side, running a thumb along a faint scratch in the doorframe. "She would have been screaming the loudest today," he says softly. Marcus chuckles, easing into the driver's seat. "And she would have made me retake every photo until my smile looked just right." The car doors shut, sealing them inside. The cabin is warm but quiet like a cocoon. The buzz outside feels distant now. Jalen turns to him. "Can I ask something?" Marcus nods. "Why didn't you say anything to them? You just sat there." Marcus taps the steering wheel once. Then he turns facing his son fully. "Because I don't have to stand up for who I am. And I don't need to raise my voice to be heard." Jalen absorbs that in silence. Marcus continues, his voice low. "You know how many times in my life I've had to choose between letting something slide or blowing it up. That moment today, what they tried to do, it wasn't new. But how we respond, that's what defines us." "But they disrespected you," Jalen says. "In front of everyone." Marcus nods. "Yes, and everyone saw it, but they also saw the truth. They saw 6 men who had every reason to be somewhere else stand up, not because I asked, but because they knew." Jalen looks down, his voice barely audible. "You always knew who had your back. I didn't need to know." Marcus replies, "I just had faith. Real men don't vanish when things get uncomfortable. They show up and they stand." The Charger hums to life as Marcus turns the key. The engine doesn't roar, it settles into a low, steady rhythm. Jalen leans back in his seat. "So, what now?" Marcus glances over. "Now we drive home. And you get to pick dinner." Jalen grins. "Waffle House?" Marcus smiles. "Of course." They pull out slowly, turning left, past the gymnasium's front lawn. In the rearview mirror, the school fades into the distance, but the memory of what happened inside will linger long after the chairs are folded and the floor is swept clean. Because that day wasn't just about a diploma, it was about definition. And for Jalen, it marked something even greater than graduation. It was the moment he understood that manhood has nothing to do with volume and everything to do with how you carry yourself when no one's clapping. Some people shout to be seen. Others sit in silence and are never forgotten. Let's slow down here. Just breathe for a second. Because sometimes it's not about the battle, it's about who chooses not to fight. It's not about the voice raised, but the one withheld. The father who didn't flinch, the son who didn't fold. The men who stood not to be noticed, but to keep a promise. You see, there's something unshakable about quiet strength. It doesn't need attention. It doesn't demand applause. It just is. And that's what today's story showed us. Marcus Langston never raised his voice. He didn't threaten. He didn't argue. But in his stillness, he reminded an entire room what dignity looks like. He reminded his son what legacy means, not in medals, not in muscle, but in restraint. This wasn't a story of revenge. It was a story of presence, of showing up, of knowing who you are so deeply that no one can move you without your permission. And maybe that's what manhood really is. Not noise, not bravado, just the courage to be still in the face of ignorance and let truth rise on its own. So wherever you are tonight, take a moment to ask yourself, what does it mean to truly stand, and who do you stand for?